we need to continue to be change makers, and all of them are here. And those who are not here, I'm sure they are listening through Twitters and live webcast. Let's start a review of questions and some of the questions that I would like to pose. And I would like to request all of you who are on their mobile and connected, I'm sure you are connected here, even if you don't have a GPRS, we have Wi-Fi, you can connect and you can post your questions on Twitter, and Madan can, let us know which are those questions that we can engage after this round. And I have some questions to all of you, and I will start with Mr. N. Ravi Shankar. Is that since we were also one of the partners of NOFN pilot stage in terms of digital literacy and all that, it's not that easy to connect 250,000, 250,000 panchayat, and the deadline is 2013 and 14. Where you are providing the broadband backhaul, but not really the reach of the connectivity to the consumers or even to the people. And we have seen that, the only phase that we have in the rural area is BSNL at the end of it, that you have to talk and to get the connectivity. How really is going to be practically possible? And we really need it, because you have given us a hope that all the panchayat will have this 100 Mbps. But we don't have, we are still looking like that it's not going to happen in the next 2-3 years to say. Can we have some mics here? Yes, sir. You can be seated.
May I respond?
Yes, please. It's working.
Well, I'd like to...
Yeah, the wireless mic is always catches it after. Oh, sure. Yeah.
Just like to respond by saying that, yes, there's a huge challenge. Initially, we had thought that when this pilot projects were rolled out, there would be great enthusiasm among the telecom service providers. But I must confess here, due to reasons which are somewhat related but not interrelated, the telecom sector, which has been going through what I would call as a crisis, has not responded to the broadband penetration activities. So much so that while 100 Mbps of bandwidth is available in 58 gram panchayats across 3 locations in the country, the service providers did not show enthusiasm to offer services, because logically Bharat Broadband was a bulk bandwidth provider, and the non-discriminatory access was to be provided to all categories of TSPs and ISPs. Looking at that scenario, friends from the Department of IT said, okay, let's try and piece together counterpart funding so that at least the G2C services can be offered. I'm very happy to say Dr. Rajendra Kumar and his team in these 3 locations have put together about 110 plus institutions, which are schools, primary health centers, some government offices, panchayats, etc., to create what I can call as the genesis of e-services on a higher bandwidth than was available under the Common Service Center and SWAN scheme. Basically, if you have 10 Mbps, then you can stream videos, etc. At this point of time, I would like to request telecom service providers that we in the BBNL have decided that for the next few months, we'll offer bandwidth free of cost to stimulate demand for the B2C services. And Vodafone and other such entities, I would like to request that you need to look as to how you can actually trigger B2C services. It's only that when you get to actually utilize a network like the BBNL backhaul network and bring together the very many creative thoughts or outputs that have been encapsulated in this forum, can we really know what appeals and perhaps try and build up an ecosystem? I just leave it at that because it's a partnership process. It cannot exist in isolation. I look at this whole ecosystem of broadband as a public-private panchayat partnership.
Cool. So there is excitement already in the panel to respond or to question or something. I would, and among all of you also, you can ask questions to each other. That's also, it's not only that I have to ask questions. So Suku, if you're excited to ask any question, please go ahead. But I would like you to, tell us, apart from the RBI thing that you indicated and the financial inclusion part or the that part which is not really happening as fast as it should have, there is a regulatory issue. Do you really think that all the telcos should become banks?
No, before that, I just want to respond to
okay, sure.
Mr. Ravi Shankar, and I'm sure Rohit also wants to respond to him. See, I have a larger problem, and the larger problem I have with is actually with auctions, right? Because this is a very tough problem because the world over, if you look at the experience, starting from the United States in 1999, which 1999 was when 3G auctions happened in the US. Companies bid huge sums of money, and in 2000 these companies were facing bankruptcy, and then re-auctions happened, and the government got less than 10% what it got in 1999. That money was returned what it got in 1999, but no one seemed to learn from it because the very next year UK and Europe and Germany, for instance, all of them did the same thing, and their telcos went into tremendous trouble. And that compounded this whole dot-com bust that happened. And if you look at Indian IT service companies, then anyone who had exposure to telecom really got very badly burned. So I'm not so sure that auctions are the best way. And you look at the 3G experience in India, one, the quality of service is bad. Two, none of these companies have really gone out and developed any proper apps or services for 3G. And I think one reason for that is probably because they spent so much money on the spectrum itself that they probably have very little money left over for anything else. But all said and done, if you have to auction, sure, go ahead and auction. But when you get the money, I want that money to go back into the sector in some way. It shouldn't be used to balance the books of the government overall. It has to go back. For instance, Mr. Ravi Shankar was speaking about, the fact that the government can actually, I don't want to use the word subsidize, but if it's possible to provide some benefit at the end user level, which you now can, thanks to the direct transfer of benefits and other things that you can have, to sort of catalyze this whole broadband thing. And this spectrum money that they're getting should go into the sector. I see no reason why it should go into balancing some other books, because, or actually what it is going into is it's going into paying interest. This year, for instance, we have around 80,000 crores of interest that we have to pay. It will probably go into paying a part of that interest, but it should actually go into the sector in some way, which is not happening. So that is the larger issue that I have.
Thank you. Rohit, you are...
So on the panchayat connectivity, I would like to add, it is coincidental that, in my erstwhile role when I was looking after the Western region, one of the chief ministers had requested me that please do a pilot for me in my state. And we have actually connected about 50 panchayats in one particular state, and the pilot is going on. But we have a limitation. Rural penetration cannot give us the bandwidth of even breaking even on the rural subscribers which we have. And expecting that bandwidth to be available on that is not possible. But we have a device which can connect 5 laptops and give you a mobile connection, which can help the entire e-connectivity of the panchayat. And we can come and demonstrate it to you also. So I think somewhere this communication has missed. And while we are going through a crisis on the telecom policy, but business is not going through a crisis, and we are trying to make best sure that the consumer gets whatever they can. The second point which I want to correct and clear to the audience and the panel, while RBI has stringent rules, but Vodafone, despite all that, has partnered with ICICI Bank and has launched M-Pesa in India. We are already operating in the east of the country, and we are going to be pan-India in the next 2 quarters. So there is financial inclusion, there is an open wallet, and there's a closed wallet. Now the next option where we want to work with the government, and I'm proposing to even talk to the finance ministry, and probably I can take your help also on that, is we can also enable, if the Narega scheme has to be started, to reach the money to the right person on the last mile. But that would require certain changes in the whole structure. Because the current structure of the RBI policy and the open wallet and the closed wallet does not allow it, because it is more B2C, and from the government to the consumer would need another transaction level and IT enablement and security to be covered. Now the responsibility which has been given to the telecom operators in improving the 3G services and the applications, let me comment. 3 blocks of 3G were given, not pan-India. What do you expect us to give you service with? Only what you give us, we can put in our best. So I would leave it at that, because that matter is sub judice, and I don't think we should discuss that here. But believe you me, we are all ready to bring the technology, and we have gone to both the finance minister and to the telecom minister, and we have said very categorically, sir, we are ready to invest money in this country. Give us the opportunity and the climate to do it. Every operator in the world, if you are quoting about auction, every operator in the world, whichever country you talk, is given a minimum bandwidth spectrum of about 10, if not 15. What are we operating on? Maximum 8? Right, sir? So we have a struggle. And on the application part, well, I've had on a one-to-one chat with Osama, and we are trying to work on certain applications on the rural part of the penetration. But I don't think it's fair for the people to expect that a telecom operator and a service provider should get into the application domain. That's a very, very specialized area where we should leave it to the software industry to work on it, because it means a lot of work to be done on it. It's like, you know, tomorrow I get into selling and manufacturing devices. So I think, you know, that sets the correct perspective and a tone for, you know.
Sure. So that specialization, I think DIT is getting by providing apps on government services. I have one quick question, that we as a citizen, and not the citizen who is sitting in this room who has got smartphone and all that, but those who are living in rural areas, who are every day's livelihood is based on some government schemes or something. We don't have a single window access to government schemes through mobile. When do you think that you can bring it to us?
Yeah, I think that's a very valid question, and that's where we are focused on rightly. And just to tell you the current framework under which we are working, our mobile gateway, it tries to address that particular need, where we don't focus only on the smartphone-based applications, but we focus on SMS and voice, because that's how we can reach the rural population. And most of our services currently through the mobile seva are based on text, and some of them are on voice. Text is the main method for delivering services, and also getting citizen feedback and their requests for the services. So this is where we are focused on, but we do realize that the proportion of smartphones is increasing at a rapid pace, and now the phones are available at a cost of $60, $70, which allow people to use mobile internet and mobile applications. So we have also gone into mobile apps in a big way, and mobile apps that we have developed and made available to the citizens are helping them to access a number of government services for which they otherwise would have gone to a government office to avail, or they would have gone to a common service center to avail. So this is eliminating the need for travel on their part, helping them to get services in real time, interact with the government departments in real time, and obtain the services. So there's a tremendous saving on the part of citizens in terms of cost, effort, time required for obtaining services. I would just like to add on the points made with regard to the NOFN, because we are also doing a pilot on NOFN for providing government services. I think one way out of this impasse of really creating the ecosystem of private service providers is to take the lead on the part of government departments to start using this kind of bandwidth to start providing their services. And that's where we have tried to pitch in. We have done the pilot in 3 blocks in about 59 panchayats. And there the focus has been to link the government department offices at the village level and offices or institutions like primary health centers or schools on this high speed bandwidth of at least 10 Mbps connectivity. And there they have started offering services, and we are seeing a visual impact in how citizens are perceiving the services to be now compared to what they were seeing earlier. And this is how I think the market has to be developed and created. And the private sector players, they need to see this opportunity of using this bandwidth to reach out to citizens in newer ways than what they had been doing earlier. I think there is a strong case for this ecosystem to get evolved. And there is the private sector players, they need to be a little more creative and proactive compared to what they have been thinking now. Because rural population is a very huge potential market, maybe not ripe immediately, but definitely in the time to come, maybe in a couple of years' time, it will be a huge potential for everyone to exploit. Thank you.
Thank you. Tommy, I have 3 questions to you. What's the worst about mobile? Nobody talks about the bad thing about mobile. Everybody talks about the good thing about mobile, maybe environmental impact, maybe interpersonal relationship impact. As you develop more relationship with mobile and less with humans, it connects only the people far away rather than people close to you. I need 3 things from you: the best, the worst, and your prediction.
Thanks. Worst, I think it's the permanent connectivity and suddenly the ability to disconnect. So I think very many people are starting to feel obligated. If you get a phone from your employer and then a colleague of you contacts you in the evening, you have to respond. Someone contacts you on a Saturday and you have to respond. Someone contacts you on a Sunday and you have to respond. And so we get this kind of anxiety about being always connected, and you cannot disconnect. So while there's a love of being able to be reachable on a personal level, and we love the notice that, I got a message and something cool happened on my phone, I think that this overload, there's a danger that we get to that level. And some people some in the room are already feeling that. I think that this will get much, much worse in the next 5 to 10 years, and we will eventually learn to take moments out where people will have time that from Friday at 5 I turn off my business phone and I only have my private phone, and on Monday morning I turn it again on, or your colleagues will know that that's the way that person prefers to. So I think that's probably the worst. Of course, the long-term risk is, what if we find some health impact in terms of the radiation? So that's what I always warn in terms of long-term. What happens 10, 20 years from now if we find that the radiation effects are something similar to what the cigarette industry noticed with cigarettes? Early on, there were honestly doctors who thought cigarettes were healthy. They increase your anxiety and increase your interest and alertness, but in the long term noticed that it had cancer effects and so forth. So we've been monitoring that on long United Nations health studies, but we haven't had enough long-term study to be definite that there's no harm. So far, no harm has been proven, but we need to monitor that. So in the long run, that would be the risk that I'm always in the back of my mind, that Let's see 20 years from now what this industry looks like. What's the best? I found an interesting statistic from New Zealand, from Vodafone last year. 1/3 of New Zealand total population, so not smartphone users, not just mobile internet users, but of total New Zealand population, had already experienced this experience. They had had an argument. They decided the argument by going into their pocket. So maybe they were in a pub and they had a pub quiz, or they were having a bet, or they were having an argument, or they were, who won the Cricket World Series, in 1968, and blah, blah, blah. And then we go into the pocket, we Google it, we find the answer. 1 in 3, not geeky smartphone users, but 1 in 3 of the total New Zealand population has already experienced this. The mobile phone becomes a truth machine. The truth is in our pocket. So if we as a society are moving into an information age, where most of our actual contribution to the economy will be digital in some ways, how does that change human behavior when we start thinking that the mobile phone is the truth machine? In my pocket, everyone has it. So I think that this is just one of those. I think that it's just a strange observation from last year, and we will probably find 5 years, 10 years from now that it will change the world about as much as search did, when internet discovered search, and all at once we could find all that information that was on the internet. Forecast, future. The richest people in the world will come from the emerging world. This is the most powerful platform ever built. Already the richest man is Carlos Slim from Mexico, built his empire on mobile. But the people in Germany, in Finland, in the United States, in England, in France, they have broadband internet, they have digital TV, they have DVDs, they have 3G, 4G mobile phones and tablets, and every single kind of digital gadget, their cars are connected, etc. We, in the emerging world, we have only mobile. We will make much better use of this technology. We will find much more true power of this technology when we start looking at, the Forbes, 400 richest people, and we read that in year 2030, they'll all come from the emerging world. Very few of them will be rich people from the industrialized world. Almost all the real wealth will be built around this technology.
Thanks a lot. And Madan, have you collected some of the questions from the hall who have tweeted? We have 3 questions possibility, because I have been reminded by my people to close the show.
Yeah, one question is for Tommy. Tommy, from Twitter. One question is about augmented reality. What's the future of augmented reality as a mass medium? The second question for speakers from Sri Lanka and India is, what is the outlook for shared mobile devices? Many homes in rural areas have one mobile phone used by a number of family members. So what kinds of services can be launched over there? And the last question is about mobile money and mobile banking. How come it has not taken off as expected over the last several years? Only in countries like Kenya, you're seeing M-Pesa making a big impact. So why is mobile money not taking off as much in other countries?
So anybody who respond, can I request very quick and short? Yeah. Thank you.
So if I start with augmented reality, I just spoke at the Augmented World Expo in San Francisco last month. I have made a prediction that by year 2020, the augmented reality mass market audience will reach 1 billion people. If that prediction is right, it means that the total augmented reality audience will be twice as big as total newspaper circulation on the planet by year 2020. Every smartphone can do augmented reality. Now, this is not a huge mass media opportunity for India yet. It will be by 2020. Globally, I think that the early numbers we are seeing from the Netherlands, from Japan, from Hong Kong, from some of the augmented reality markets very strongly confirm. I'm very confident in that 1 billion number. It will be small part mobile, but it will also be other technologies like tablets, like PlayStation portables, Google Glass, and so forth.
Thank you. Rishan?
Thank you. Answer to the question of shared services, where one mobile phone is used by a household. I think mobile phone is only a device, so the services don't necessarily have to be shared or sent for a multiple amount of people to use. You can still provide individual services. Individuals in the same household can use the phone, but from a government point of view, there are services that a family needs when children go to school, getting their certificates, getting their registrations, getting examination results, or other government-related information in terms of a profession or activity that the breadwinner does, either a farmer or a fisherman, can get information in relation to the services there. So there are a number of things, and I don't think it has to be very specific that we have to focus on sending shared services where a mobile phone is shared through a number of people. But also to share a bit of experience from Sri Lanka, what we see is that one of the biggest challenges is increasing the usage. We didn't see people coming running or queuing up to use the services. I mentioned that the mobile phone penetration is high, but that's not the case with using the internet. 10 to 15% internet penetration, why are the next 15% not using the internet? And if you just look at the next 15%, they are not different to the first 15% you're using it. Same kind of background, same financial capability, same needs. Why is one person using it and one person not using it? So I think there's a lot of education, awareness, and maybe incentivification that needs to be done to improve that.
Thank you. Mohammed, do you have?
Yeah, actually, thank you. Just picking up on that point about, why aren't people taking up services? I mean, I've got a slightly different perspective on this. So we regularly talk about India having, several 100 million potential users of these services. But if you look at it for a moment from, say, an applications provider's point of view, I may look at a total market of several 100 million in India. But when I think of developing a service for them, first, maybe I will think about what language will they use that service in. And when I slice and dice that market, I'll find that for a particular language group, the market is maybe a fifth or a quarter of the size of the total market. I'll then look at what region they're in and how easily can I reach them. And I'll maybe then dice the market again, maybe to a quarter of the size that it was, so a 16th of the overall size. I'll then look at, will my application work on their device? So what sort of device are they using? Are they using something on an Apple operating system, or an Android, or a Symbian? And if I slice and dice again, it'll be again a quarter or a fifth of what it was before. And if I then think about the fact that I need to have a service provider as a partner to go to market with, to reach them, it'll be another quarter of that. So suddenly, an opportunity which might be 500 million in the beginning, after 3 or 4 steps, is maybe only 2 million. So, that probably explains one of the reasons why we're not seeing so much uptake. What does that really mean? It probably means that, there's something to be done from the policy point of view and from the regulatory point of view by government to help that market opportunity that we look at as a macro actually be realizable for people who are doing business out there. There's probably something that the industry can do as well. So the stuff that the policymakers and the regulators can do have been touched upon. I mean, part of it is around building awareness and building confidence, giving people a better understanding of how is it that they can benefit from certain services. When you look at data services, most of us in this room will know what a data service is, but generally across the population in India, probably only about a third of mobile phone users properly understand what a data service is, and only another third of those actually know how to use such a data service on their device. The other one, of course, is regulation. In areas such as healthcare, it's very important that governments intervene or regulate in a way that promotes the usage or uptake of services and doesn't choke off the growth. And we've seen a similar example from RBI, for example, in terms of mobile banking services taking off. But there's stuff that the industry can do as well. My sense is that the mobile industry has done an amazing thing in India by coordinating on sharing infrastructure. So, for example, through the towers industry. And of course, on sharing networks through interconnection and roaming. But the industry hasn't done very much, or hardly anything, to be honest, in terms of how to share infrastructure or channels for scaling data services. It's something which most players in the industry do not openly think about. They think about going to market themselves, but not very much about collaborating. But if you go back to my initial problem, which is that the market opportunity may be big, but if you look at it from the perspective of any one person, it's actually quite small. So from that perspective, it may be time now for the industry to think about, do we need to do some of this together? Because if we don't, then maybe the industry itself becomes challenged by what we call the disruptive players or the over-the-top players.
Thanks. I thought I would sum up, but apparently you have summed up very well. A couple of more points that I would just highlight, which is of the inaugural session, is that NOFIN need lots of TSPs to participate, and that's the message. DIT needs to develop app which reaches a citizen. I think the telcos need to give better revenue sharing for the app development, and we need a lot of app development to reach the masses. With that, we will close the inaugural session, and we have small formalities. Take advantage of all of your presence to release few books, and we have some mementos for you. So these are यही बोला इन्होंने ही बोला. Okay, so this is not a gift. I mean, you can take it away, but you have to open it up and show it to the people and not share it because it has got some confidential information for many of those people who will be announced winners in the evening. But it has got 3 sets of books. One is all the finalists and winners of the M Billionth Award, and it has got the finalist list of Mobile for Good, out of which 4 people will get 10 lakh each in the evening, which we will announce. And it is also got a coffee table book of the last 2 years of winners of Mobile for Good, who are already enjoying the prizes and trying to scale up. So can you just show it, and so that we have those moments of which we can display everywhere. So as you can see, it has got lots of red and orange. So So I would request at least one person in this one, Dr. Rajendra Kumar, not to show it to your colleagues. And you also should not open it, because some of your entries are there. Thank you very much. And we have... okay, so the piece that I'm